Namaste everyone. Welcome to our 28th annual World Yoga Festival and the 7th International Day of Yoga celebrations. Today we have a special celebration. This is the African Yoga Festival. This is the first time we are doing this event to commemorate the Juneteenth celebration. It is the Black Independence Day, Emancipation Day in America. We acknowledge people from African descent. They are also divine chosen being like us. For yogis, we won't care where people are coming from. They are our brothers and sisters. We celebrate their existence with them. We give the respect and make sure nobody left behind because of their culture or religious background or ethnicity or gender or nationality. Here, I like to invite my brother Swami Adi Dharmananda ji from Himalayas to do a prayer and give a greetings. Dear Swamiji, please unmute yourself. Glory.
Hari Om, Namaste, thank you Guruji. I'm honored to be here with all our African brothers and sisters, our family, and I would like to say a few prayers. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, salutations and prostrations unto Thee. Thou art omnipresent, omnipotent and omniscient. Thou art Satchitananda. Thou art existence, consciousness and bliss absolute. Thou art the indweller of all beings. Grant us an understanding heart, equal vision, balanced mind, faith, devotion and wisdom. Grant us inner spiritual strength to resist temptations and to control the mind. Free us from egoism, lust, anger, greed, hatred and jealousy. Fill our hearts with divine virtues. Let us behold Thee in all these names and forms. Let us serve Thee in all these names and forms. Let us ever remember Thee. Let us ever sing Thy glories. Let Thy name be ever upon our lips. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. Let us abide in Thee forever and ever. This is universal prayer by Worshipful Gurudev Swami Shivananda Maharaj. So nothing could have been better to start with this wonderful prayer, which in itself contains all the essence of yoga, peace, brotherhood. So thank you Guruji for putting this program together and to invite all our brothers and sisters. And especially I would like to take this opportunity because today is the day, 19th June 2016. We were all in New York and we had a great program because of Guruji's help. We were celebrating the birth centenary of my Guru Swami Chidanand Maharaj, and we were there for a whole month. And on today, we had a big program organized by Guruji at the social hall. And I wish we were there, but I'm happy to be here virtually also. So thank you so much for your support, your love, and your passion to work for interfaith, to bring everyone from all over the world together as a family. So I wish you all the best, and I pray that you continue to, do this as long as you are here in this incarnation with all that passion, with all that love. And I would like to take this opportunity to read out a passage of Gurudev Swami Chidanand Maharaj about prayers, that how our prayers, the power of our prayers. I would like to read out a small passage. God not only being transcendental but also being immanent, not only being immanent but also being a specific indwelling divine principle within each and everybody. Why is there so much difficulty in attaining that which is nearer to us than anything else in all the universe? All the saints, therefore, and mystics have prayed. This is the rationale behind prayer, that the prayer itself helps us in attaining that which is nearer to us than anything else. O Lord, bless me and grant that I may constantly remember you. Let my mind be constantly thinking of you. Let my entire being look only in your direction. And may I have no eyes for anything else, no ears for anything else. Having ears, let me hear nothing except your name, your description, your glories, your praise, from saints, from scriptures, from teachers, from mystics, from yogis. Having eyes, let me see nothing except things pertaining to you, things that will help me to move towards you. Having a mind, let it think of nothing but think only of you. Supremely blessed are those who are thus graced by the Almighty Spirit Divine and blessed by their spiritual master. May all of us be graced by God and the universal teacher, so that we continue to pray and create the spirit of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best. I hope we continue the spirit of Yoga Day like it has been since 1st of June, and few more days left, but we'll continue the spirit of Yoga Day all along now, because we can anytime get together with Guruji for another program. Thank you very much, Guruji.
Thank you, Swami Yadidharmananda, a great blessing. It was a beautiful event we had in New York. Definitely we'll continue our work. Now I'd like to invite one of the senior most yoga acharya who was with Swami Chidananda Maharaj, that is Yogi R. Ramalingamji.
Now, Hariom, now he is speaking.
Yes, please.
Hariom. Om Bhagavate Shivanandaya Namah. Om Siddhanandaya Namah. Om all Gurujis is Namah. We pray our Guruji Swami Siddhananda, Siddhananda Maharaj. Caring always with ours. Swami Siddhananda Maharaj always with ours. We not speak, only Siddhananda Maharaj speak. We are only body. He is very great, Swami Siddhananda Maharaj. So we are Siddhananda Maharaj child. So very happy today. Universal complete yoga, the earth. The founder, the first need, Swami Shivananda Maharaj, put it all over the world in yoga field. Very grateful. Only way of good health and peace of life, only way of yoga. That is now all over the world and all over the countries is know what is yoga. So very happy because our Guruji Swami Siddhananda Shivananda Maharaj, we plan long years ago. Swami Chidananda Maharaj put that need here. No, very big tree now. Very big tree all over the world in yoga. No caste, no religion, no country, no language, everything yoga. Yoga filled in the world now. So we are very grateful, very thankful for Guruji Tilipan, World Yoga Community. Now what is that? Not separate. World Yoga Community now. We are World Yoga Community people. We are yoga family. One family. One yoga. One sun. One year. One earth. That is the World Yoga Community. Not separate. One sun. One earth. One fire. One earth. One soul. We are one soul. That is the World Yoga Community organizing for Tilipanji. Very nice. I am very happy today because 7th International Yoga Day. This is not 7th Yoga Day. Always Yoga Day. All lifelong Yoga Day. Every day Yoga Day. Tilipanji every day, every Nimiti Yoga Day, Tilipanji. Over Nimiti in Tilipanji Yoga Day. So happy. Nothing life, but must always happy. That is a Tilipanji. Always, every minute in Yoga Day, he always mind here. But his mind in Earth Bhumi. Bhumi, our place, India is mother of land. Mother of yoga land for India. So we are now, the earth is yoga land, not only India. The earth is yoga land. That is come to the World Yoga Community. Guruji is joined in gathering every country. 175 countries now. Yoga Day celebrated this year. 21. You see that this year very special. 21. 21. The age is 21. We are now not 78. Only 21. Tilipanji 21. 21. June 21. That is the young stage now, the 70 years old Yoga Day. 70 years old Yoga Day. 21, 20 this year, very nice. Became, one day we reached after 12 years. I told Tilipanji automatically, the world, the earth is come to yoga field only. That is the yoga margam. The world people all of come yoga margam. No religion, no caste, no language, no country. Yoga earth, this is the world, everything. This is coming soon. World Yoga Community. We are not religion. We are not, you see the God. Our Vayudevan. Krishna is now Vayu. Vayudevan, yeah. He come to the Corona. Now Krishna is Avadaram. Corona. This is the Vayu. Vayudevan is coming now because we are gathering. No language, no country. The weapons, American weapons, China weapons, Russia weapons, and Anu, everything not fight the Corona. Only human. Correct way of the life. That is a fight in Corona. Individual capacity, individual equality, individual spirituality. That is come. The World Yoga Community is gathering all people. That is the yoga world now. I am very happy. Guruji Tilipanji, I am very happy today because Anandam. Always Anandam. no, nothing worry, no any worry, no disease, always happy. That is the empty mind, always happy. That is Siddhartha Maharaj. We are Siddhartha family. You are Shivananda family, Siddhartha family, the world full, not only Chilipanji, not only Ramalinji, world people, everything in Siddhartha, Shivananda Maharaj people. Huh? We are one soul. We are one soul, one earth, one sun, one moon, one air. That is the yoga unit. You come to the every man, individual man is correctly, everything correct. So, my dear brothers, my dear, no brothers, we are one family. No sister or brothers. We are one family, one soul. I am very happy today. I think next year, very big ground. Next year, Tilipanji is come to India. Very big conference for India. Huh? Very, very, very blessing. Swami Siddhartha Maharaj, Swami Siddhartha Maharaj, Swami Shivananda Maharaj. Everything always with others. Oh, that's it. Om. Hari Om, that's it. Very thankful, Tilipanji. Very thankful our Gurudev Siddhartha Shivananda Maharaj. We are only servant for here. We are only service for here. Everything Guru grace. Hari Om, that's it. Thank you for the big. We are meet and happy. That is Hari Om, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yogi Ramalinganji. I'm glad you can join us through the Zoom. Last time we had a hard time. And Yogi is one of the senior most yoga acharya in India. And his son is teaching class. He has an organization in China. And Swamiji is from Shivananda lineage and close associate of Swami Chidananda Maharaj. And he made an organization in Madurai. It's a beautiful place. And the name of the place is Swami Shivananda Yogasana Research Center. Additionally, he is the founder and secretary general at the Tamil Nadu Yogasana Association, one of the senior most yoga teacher who brought the Yogasana as a sports. Thank you, Ji. I will appreciate all of your help and blessings. Now, I like to invite our youth representative, that is Ms. Gayatri Menon. She is an NGO representative for the youth of World Yoga Community to the United Nations and the youth representative steering committee at the United Nations Department of Global Communications. Ms. Gayatri Menon, floor is for you.
Namaste and wishing everybody a healthy and happy yoga month. I'm Gayatri Menon and I'm a youth representative at the World Yoga Community. Today, it is my pleasure to provide you with a brief background about how the International Day of Yoga came to be and to talk about the themes that have shaped and given form to this universally celebrated day. Now, we all know that 21st June is the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. It is also popularly referred to as summer solstice. But did you know that this day has tremendous significance for many cultures, from the ancient Greeks, who celebrated this day as the start of the new year, to the modern day Europeans who enjoy midsummer festivities on this day? And since 21st June has such special significance in many parts of the world, it was suggested as the ideal day to host the International Day of Yoga. And this was proposed by the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, during a speech given at the United Nations General Assembly in 2014. In his speech, Modi had said that yoga embodies unity of mind and body, thought and action, restraint and fulfillment, harmony between man and nature, a holistic approach to health and well-being. And this was the premise for introducing an international day dedicated to yoga to spread awareness about the practice and encourage people across the world to give it a try and experience the benefits for themselves. The initiative received wide support from global leaders and UN member states, and thus the very first International Day of Yoga was celebrated on 21st June 2015. In India, this day saw around 35,000 people gather together at one location in New Delhi to perform coordinated yoga asanas. Within 2 years, this number increased to around 50,000 people as the event gained popularity. A similar event was also set up in Times Square in New York, where thousands came together to practice yoga. The 2017 edition of the International Day of Yoga also adopted a theme, viz. Yoga for Health. The idea of incorporating a theme stuck, and the celebrations for subsequent years were associated with a theme that aimed to highlight and provide awareness regarding different aspects of the practice. Keeping up with the tradition, the 2018 version of Yoga Day had the theme Yoga for Peace. This was also the year where 100,000 people performed yoga together at a city named Kota in India, which resulted in the city becoming the recipient of a Guinness World Record. The theme for the 2019 edition was Yoga for Heart, that stressed on utilizing the practice and philosophy of yoga, not just for the health of the individual, but also that of society and even the environment. And then 2020 came about, and the world was shrouded in a deadly pandemic. Yoga and other wellness practices had never been more important. Keeping up with the global situation, the theme for the year was Yoga at Home and Yoga with Family. And while the scale of the celebrations may have been toned down, awareness regarding the practice spread far and wide as more people embraced this as an opportunity to curate a wellness routine that would allow them to remain physically and mentally fit in the midst of a global crisis. And that brings us to 2021. This year, the chosen theme is Yoga for Well-being. As some parts of the world slowly recover and yet others still remain in lockdown, the theme highlights using yoga as a tool to take care of one's overall well-being, which includes both physical and mental health. After more than a year of living indoors and limiting all our interactions to a screen, it is only natural that this new but necessary way of life would have taken a toll on most people. At a time when conversations around mental health have garnered traction and are much needed, this year's Yoga Day theme aims to aid that movement by spreading awareness of the benefits that yoga and meditation provide in maintaining one's mental health. As we near the 7th Yoga Day celebrations, I would urge everyone listening to give the practice a try. The beautiful thing about yoga is that there is something for everyone, irrespective of age, fitness levels, and even the amount of time you have to spare. Each person's yoga practice can look very different. For some, a practice can look like 5 minutes of mindful meditation, while for others, it can include an hour of vigorous physical exercise. Whatever your preferred style, the benefits are plentiful. Further, a sustainable practice yields positive externalities in other facets of one's life, be it through enhanced performance at the workplace or by improving your relationships with the people in your life. And while I could go on and on about the benefits of this wonderful practice, I will instead let you discover that for yourself this Yoga Day. So go give it a try. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Ms. Catherine Meno. It was a wonderful explanation about the Yoga Day, what happened. But I had to iterate every word. That is, before any of the government movement happened, so many yogis came together to promote the Yoga Day, including me. And one of the Swami from Portugal, Amrita Suryananda, he was part of our team, and he's the person went to India through our guidance and met Dr. Nagendraji, H.R. Nagendra. He's the person mobilized properly. So he's going to speak in the last day of our event on 30th. And I'm looking for Queen Mother is in Africa, so she won't able to join today. She may pop up, not sure. But we have another person, a yoga teacher from Africa. She originally from Italy. Let me see her name. Yogini Valentina Cortini Nut. She's an executive director at the Spiritual Council in South Africa and an energy healer. Valentina, please.
Guruji, I got a message that she's logging on, so
She
it
was.
might be a couple more minutes.
Oh, that's fine. Then in that case, I'll invite Barbara Bullard. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, Namaste, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Barbara Bullard, and I am a part of the Release and Become community, and also I'm the author of the book Release and Become. Release and Become is a community of, that includes the United Nations Ambassador Anwar Chowdhury, Sanskrit specialist Professor Nadine Bharati, the chief priest of Shivananda, Sri Shankaran Nagurupit, Guruji, of course, Premji, if you guys know Premji, he's amazing. Sonia Manchada from Bangalore, India, she's a design expert. Multimedia artist, Al Johnson. There's so many of us, and we all acknowledge and integrate yoga in our daily lives, seeking to restore the integrity of the human spirit, healing emotional wounds. Release and Become is an opportunity to connect with leaders from many walks of life, locally, nationally, and globally, to hear from brilliant minds around the world that are fighting for social justice and inclusivity through art, design, and policy, and to understand the commonality within our quest for healthy living and to obtain resources to support individual and communal needs. While the consciousness of community was at risk during COVID-19 and still is, and racism is being declared as a health crisis, Release and Become has been sought after by art advocates, creators, and policymakers. And we're quite excited that today, this is a national holiday, Juneteenth, and I'm just honored and to be here with all of you from all over the world. And we're also looking to incorporate projects that are inclusive of Black males and yoga. So if you know of anyone that wants to chat with us, send us a message through the chat. And without ado, I'd like to present a small promo of what Release and Become and such amazing people have been doing. One moment, please, and I'll share.
Do we have some sound here?
There was sound. I don't know.
Check your computer. Any
Okay, well, let me stop sharing. I don't know if you guys heard anything. Maybe there was a technical issue there, but I hope you were able to hear the video. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this wonderful event.
Yeah, and the sound problem.
Well, I'll try to repair it while it's going on, and then maybe we can play it again before the end of the event. Okay?
Just check it. Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate. Now, Pete, is she back or? Pete Regina.
I just got a message. She said she's 5 minutes from her office.
Okay, do you want to go?
Sure, sure.
So,
Namaste, everybody. Go ahead. Should I just go?
yeah, you can go.
Okay.
Pete Regina is the founder and at the project Peace Lights and co-creator of Peace Lights, and is a long-time friend with me, and is always do wonderful peace light presentation at the United Nations. Few years back, I brought his piece to India. During our 25th annual Well Yoga Festival, we opened the ceremony and added few words on peace lights with his project. I'm looking forward to have more words from different languages in your video. Okay, move forward. Floor is for you.
Namaskar, everybody. And thank you for organizing this, Guruji. These events are wonderful. And I think very important, because I believe that sharing all of the wisdom and education around yoga is only going to broaden everybody's perception of what is possible in the world and how similar we are in a lot of different ways. Let me invite everybody, if they can, to go to gallery view and take a look at Peace Lights while it's playing. The colors that you see in this piece of art, and Peace Lights is really just a piece of art that has led to this project Peace Lights, which has this connection to yoga that I'll describe in a moment. But the colors are representative of the different cultures in the world, while the motion that we see represents the different ways in which these cultures interact and work together to achieve harmony and peace and good energy. Guruji mentioned the languages, and you'll see occasionally the words peace lights come up in different languages. And many times we've had to fix what has been said because it was a little off. We've always tried to go for the holiest form of the word light. And wherever Peace Lights plays around the world, people are encouraged to project their own thoughts and intents for peace into the lights. And so there's this collective energy that is all entangled with the lights. And the lights play all over the world. It's played 6 or 7 continents, nearly 40 times at the United Nations, at many events. The first time it played in the General Assembly Hall was 2 years ago on the International Day of Yoga. And we got some good video. I'll provide some of that video for Monday's session on the 21st. But this journey of Peace Lights had a very interesting path. And this path kind of unraveled in front of me, and I felt almost divinely inspired to just take steps one at a time as these different meetings opened up, as these different opportunities for discussions opened up. One such event that Peace Lights was invited to was honoring an icon of the United States civil rights movement, a diaspora woman who at the time in 1955 was 15 years old. And many people know Rosa Parks as the symbol of the civil rights movement for getting arrested on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. That happened on December 1st of 1955. Now, this 15-year-old girl, Claudette Colvin, got arrested for the same thing 9 months earlier. And what history doesn't teach us, at least the school work that is taught here in America doesn't clearly enough teach us, is that it was really Claudette Colvin's arrest that impacted vastly the timeline of the civil rights movement. And how it did that was that the way we learn it is Rosa Parks got arrested on December 1st, 1955. And the response to that arrest was the Montgomery bus boycott. Now, the Montgomery bus boycott lasted for a year, and eventually the law changed, and that was kind of the way we learn it. But the Montgomery bus boycott, which really was an impactful financial as well as cultural thing, took more than 6 months to plan. So how could that have happened right after Rosa Parks? The fact of the matter is that it was Claudette Colvin, the 15-year-old's arrest, that inspired the planning for this event, inspired the NAACP to get involved in. It was actually Claudette Colvin's lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court that changed the law. And many people know Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s very first activity outside of his small parish where he was a pastor at the age of 26, very first public facing thing was to raise funds for the defense of Claudette Colvin. So there's a lot of activity. Now, this woman, Claudette Colvin, moved to the Bronx in 1957. 2 years later, she had a little kid. She was still getting death threats. She couldn't get a job. And they found her in the Bronx, and that's where Peace Lights comes into the story. They wanted to honor her at the Bronx Public Library, and they invited Peace Lights to play, and they invited me to speak. So I said at this event that this woman really saved lives because of doing what she did. By accelerating the timeline, she changed the dynamic, and there were less deaths per day that happened as a result. So by accelerating that timeline, there were people who were no longer under the curve as far as deaths per day go. They were above the curve. They are literally lives saved. So I was invited after that talk. Somebody came up to me and said, Mr. Regina, no one's ever told her story that way. Would you mind telling the story the way you just told it to the ambassador from the African Union to the United Nations? So of course, I went in and I met with Ambassador Adonia Ayabare. He was from Uganda, one of the two ambassadors representing the 55 nations of the African Union to the United Nations. Told him the story. And this began a discussion that led to his invitation to have me review Agenda 2063, the 50-year plan of the African Union. Now, this 50-year plan is a beautiful document. If you're not familiar with it, have never heard of it before, I'd highly encourage you to take a look at it. There are 7 beautiful aspirations. And I was looking in this document for something related to Claudette Colvin, because I had proposed that why wouldn't the diaspora of the African Union bring up a motion to the African Union to honor this woman while she's still alive? Her example is perhaps even more relevant today than that of Rosa Parks, because it's about the act of standing up for your rights that's at the cornerstone of making things better. So this led to this conversation. I read the document, and there is a beautiful part. The 4th aspiration is for a peaceful and secure Africa. And the words underneath that say, a culture of peace and tolerance shall be nurtured in Africa's children and youth through peace education. Now, I reviewed that entire rest of that document, did online research, looked up the 10-year implementation plan, key strategic objectives, the rollouts through the regional economic centers, and nowhere else, I was very surprised to find, was peace education even mentioned. So I went back to the ambassador and I said, you know, Your Excellency, this is a beautiful document, but arguably the most important part of the whole 50-year plan, there's nothing behind it. And we had a long discussion. And the discussion centered around that they couldn't really make any more progress around peace education because the definition for peace education is really nebulous and ill-defined. And I said, well, you know, that should be something that should be able to be addressed. Get a working group together, figure it out. And then you'll have your topics for peace education. And then a curriculum can be developed for primary and secondary. And that discussion kind of went back and forth a little bit. He said, here's the issue. It's not the charter of the African Union to do this. We're a body that, represents 55 nations, but we're not in the business of creating peace education curriculum. But we would love to partner with an organization that could help facilitate that. And often a lot of these ideas are more easily incorporated from the outside. We have challenges inside of Africa with our communication, with our various ways of working together that sometimes can be helped from the outside. I have Chief Luqman is going to be one of the speakers today. And I've had the great pleasure to know Chief Luqman for quite a while now. And we just signed a memorandum of understanding around peace education with the Kingdom of Oyotunji. Very, very looking forward to where that's going to go. But he had some words a couple months ago to me that really struck to the heart of things. And he said, Peter, the pedagogy of change always comes from the outside. And so that kind of plays back into this whole discussion about peace education in the African Union. Through the journey of Peace Lights, as it continued to play at the United Nations and various conferences and concerts and events, people would come up to me and we'd have discussions that it turns out were further stepping stones on this path that I've been taking. I met a guy who chaired Pan-African curriculum development working groups in Senegal, a college professor. He laid out how that could be done. We financially modeled it. The challenge then would be that you can't drive down curriculum in Africa. You need to have the support and involvement of the tribes and caliphates and kingdoms and chiefdoms. Otherwise, it's going to be dead on arrival. So a woman from Kenya came up to me and said, Peter, they're right. You do need to visit every tribe and involve them. But here's how you do it. And she laid it out, and we financially modeled that. Now we have Project Peace Lights. It was formed a year ago, February, with the specific mission to accelerate peace education in the African Union. And that role is not to be the creator of a peace education curriculum. It's really to facilitate the process. Now, let's talk about how yoga fits in here and why this guy from New Jersey is talking at an African yoga event right now online to people around the world. Well, it turns out that if you look at the potential topics that Africans will decide on to include in their peace education curriculum, there's not going to be 100 things. It's going to be a dozen things or 20 things. It's going to be a small enough finite number that people can get their arms around. They will be things like peace documents, cultures and customs around the world, inner peace, media influences on peace, history of peace, and whatever they decide those topics will be, they'll all sit on a foundation of human rights for sure. But if we look at the topics, I started looking at some of them, and especially inner peace caught my eye. And I know yoga is more than just meditation. It's more than just physical strengthening and stretching. There are spiritual aspects, there are mental aspects, there are social aspects. And if Africa is to have a robust and rounded peace education curriculum, a big part of that is going to be the understanding of different cultures and approaches to peace. And especially the inner peace aspect, I thought was a really good fit. There's so much of the world that begins to teach meditation, for example, at ages as early as 5 or 6. And certainly the Hindu traditions and Japanese and many of the world, much of the world teaches that as a fundamental aspect of achieving inner peace, achieving connection with not only others, but certainly the higher spirits. That is often referred to, higher spirit, which is also often referred to in terms of light. It's interesting. So this partnership with the World Yoga Community started a number of years ago with this discussion about how the curriculum development working group can be introduced to the tenets of yoga, and so that they could have those aspects to include in their curriculum as they develop it. For now, it's not only primary and secondary, but it's expanded to higher education as well as a curriculum for adult illiterate people in Africa, because there are just so many people who never had the opportunity to learn and become literate and read the content. So that's kind of at the basis of what's going on. Project Peace Lights has launched, and was an announcement in a soft launch today in Plateau State in Nigeria of a partnership between Project Peace Lights and the Kudirat Abiola Sabongari Peace Foundation. Many people from New York might know the Nigerian Day Parade that happens a couple blocks away from the UN, and it happens on Kudirat Abiola Way. Mr. Abiola was the first billionaire in Nigeria, elected president in 1993, and then put in jail where he died. His wife took the mantle and was known as the mother of democracy and was assassinated. So this launch of this Peace Foundation and a partnership with this Peace Foundation is very significant. It's very significant not only for Nigeria, but for the people all over Africa. And it will contribute to this ongoing momentum that is building. We are currently in 30 countries in Africa right now. There are country managers and teams being built. Some are already large in place, hundreds of people, with this idea of reaching out to the tribes. And once again, to bring it back to yoga, the teachings of yoga, the inner peace aspects, the meditative aspects, the culture of yoga, and the culture of the traditions of all those who practice yoga around the world have to be and should be part of the knowledge and education process that happens in Africa. And that will certainly be shepherded into those discussions by Project Peace Lights. We thank the World Yoga Community. We thank the Kingdom of Oyotunji. We thank the Kudirat Abiola Sabongari Peace Foundation and all of our partners around the world, African Diaspora Foundation, African Youth Architects. There are so many that are there. I encourage you and welcome you to visit our projectpeacelights.org website, and we'll continue to bring these peace lights to all the rest of the events this month. Thank you so much, Guruji. Namaste, everybody, and have a great day.
Pete, I have a question.
Sure.
What made you to start this Peace Light?
So Peace Lights came out of a series of light art shows. I used to make holograms, so I have an artistic kind of passion that I've always carried with me throughout my life. Made holograms, got into 3D photography. We had some holograms on display at the Museum of Holography. The 3D work resulted in a show at the Museum of Natural History at one point. And these light photographs that I would take started to show up after I partnered with a wonderful video artist named Eileen Cohen, now Eileen Felix. And we started projecting these light photos and flying through them in New York City. We did about 15 or 16 shows in 2014 on places like the Cotton Club, Governor's Island, the TED Conference that year in New York City, the opening for the New York City Month of Peace. Now, the following year, 2015, was the United Nations International Year of Light. And Eileen and I were very honored to be the invited artist projectionist for the opening ceremonies of the International Year of Light. And all of these things you see, so Peace Lights is purely transmitted light. There's no reflected light in that at all. And all of our light shows that year before had been that way. So we brought a show to the opening ceremonies of the International Year of Light. Now, it turned out that happened in January. Many of you know the United Nations is on the water, and this ceremony was held in an event right on the water. So people weren't going to be standing outside in January. It was 16 degrees that night. So we bought in a flowing piece of lights, which is the predecessor to Peace Lights. People used to stop on the streets and comment on its peaceful energy. They'd say, you know, this thing is just really nice whenever this comes up in your shows. So I said to Eileen, we're going to bring drapes, we used to call it. We're going to bring drapes into the event and just let it flow. And it made such an impact on the energy of that event that the following month we brought drapes to another event at the New York Peace Coalition. We were getting an award for helping them with a music peace marathon. The Sheikh Musa, the chairman of the New York Peace Coalition, came up to me and said, Peter, such great energy in that corner. Everyone loves the lights. And I looked up at him and I said, Sheikh, you know, a 6'3" guy from Gambia, turns out. I said, Sheikh, what about a video like that as a symbol of good energy or peace or something like that. Sheikh looked down at me, his whole demeanor changed. And he said, Peter, we have not had a new symbol of peace in more than a generation. We've been looking for a visual symbol because we're visual creatures to provide solidarity for actions of peace around the world. So that night, driving back from the Bronx, New York to New Jersey, where I live, I had a thought, called up Eileen the next morning. She gave me the thumbs up. We called back to Sheikh and I said, Sheikh, here's what we propose. The New York Peace Coalition commissions Pete and Eileen for free to remaster drapes into peace lights. We'll add the word peace lights at the beginning and in multiple languages. As I said before, it turned out to be 55 different languages. And we are working on a version, by the way, as part of Peace Lights, to when we approach and have these days of discussion with all the ethnic groups to get their input on the topics for peace education, we're asking them for the words peace lights in all the languages in Africa so that we can create an African version specific to Africa of peace lights. We delivered peace lights to the New York Peace Coalition on April 8th of 2015. On April 9th, they adopted it as their international symbol of peace and nonviolence. 2 weeks later, on Earth Day, peace organizations from 14 other countries adopted peace lights. Later that summer, the United Nations International Year of Light endorsed peace lights. It started playing all over the world for long stretches at large venues and large public squares. And it has continued to play and be invited to concerts and conferences, weddings, funerals, all sorts of events throughout the years. And through that time, I was very, very fortunate to be introduced to and get to know and become friends with Guru Dilipji and all of the people, many of whom are on this call today. And it, as I said before, for me, it seems like a divinely inspired path that I found myself on. And I'm very happy to continue on as a facilitator to bringing peace education into Africa. And that's my role. You know, peace education in Africa has to be done by Africans for Africa. But I'm very honored to be included in that process as a facilitator. And that's the way I see myself. And the talent and people that are coming out of the woodwork is just continues to inspire me. And I see now inspire each other towards moving down this road. So thank you for that question, Guruji. It's a beautiful thing to be able to bring peace lights to the United Nations, to the African Union, to these events, and to the yoga community around the world.
Thank you, Peter. Rogina, that was a beautiful explanation. Because I am a fan of peace light with the different colors. Look at the Well Yoga Community write-up with the different colors. You know? Mm-hmm. So now I'd like to invite our Yogini Valentina Cortini Nat. She's Executive Director of the Spiritual Council in South Africa and Energy Healer. Valentina, floor is for you.
Guruji, pleasure meeting you and everybody on this forum today. Thank you so much for inviting me, first of all. I would like to instantly bring to you, of course, the greeting from South Africa and from the Spiritual Council. And I would like to let you know that the mission of our nonprofit organization is to bring healing to our conflicted continent. And that's, you know, our main aim. And also, we always look at the youth as our target in terms of bringing them and give them direction, a direction that they have lost. And I'm truly honored to be on this forum today and also to share, of course, the views of the Council. Now, for those who don't know me, Africa has been my home for more than half of my life. I've chosen Africa. Africa have chosen me. We've chosen each other, basically. And Africa has opened me in many ways. It has opened me apart emotionally. At times when packing up, you know, my belongings and moving back to my motherland, Italy, would have been, you know, the right choice at that time. But Africa has helped me shed layers of fictitious personality that I created over the years, so has to hide my pain and my trauma. Africa opened all of those wounds, one after the other, even when I thought I could bear no more pain, and has created a safe space for my healing. Healing that, of course, is ongoing, is an ongoing process. And from this space of healing today and transformation, I would love to return the favor and bring healing to Africa. So to fully understand how Africa can heal at this time, we need to understand first the history of Africa. Each nation has gone through its own trials and its own tribulation in forming each individual society with their own rules, laws that dictated how individuals in this country live. So it is different for each nation, it is different for each country. And as such, different forms of action are required in this process of healing Africa, as a collective, as a continent. So I would like to go into a bit more detail about how this can be achieved. However, I understand that action will be required in, of course, an individual capacity towards each individual nation. So the collective understanding should also be understood as historic, which we basically understand a transformation that has taken place, and the transformation of how countries and individuals in this country have gotten from one stage to the next stage. So if you're able to understand the transformation, so the different stages, and if you're able to understand the transition, then you will be able to have a more in-depth grasp of how things can be changed moving forward. And I'm very hopeful. So let's first of all look at the transitioning and the changes from the past. For a lot of African countries, the population in the different countries were literally isolated. They were in different groups or tribes, all of them set far away from one another. And as such, they have generally lived to a large degree in a harmonious way, harmonious life. However, at some point in history, different African communities and groups started to engage with one another, and to some degree, that happened through wars fought between different groups on the continent. And this was way long before colonialism had taken place. So with the new onslaught and the new beginning of transformation taking place, action was required at that time. And this action has taken place in a way that has benefited a few, but as you know, has also brought distraction to others. So it is really important to understand the transitions and the transaction of energy that took place between a few groups and other groups, and the role it plays in the modern world right now. Some groups, of course, looked at one another as oppressors. Some groups see themselves as being oppressed, and other groups see themselves as, of course, being the most powerful and the most dominant of all. And to date, you can agree with me, in Africa, we have ethnic groups within the same nation claiming to be superior to others. And these aspects are important to take into consideration as we discuss how the continent can heal as a whole. So let's continue looking at history, as it is important. However, it should not be used as an excuse, but as a tool for recognizing how certain situations have taken place, and of course, how certain situations have come to be as they are right now. So we said that Africa was ethnically divided into different groups, all playing a part in the collective of the African continent. And at some point, it became inevitable that the Europeans would come in and take over. And there is a reason for this. And it is because of the technological disadvantages, let's call it that way, that Africa had at that time. If you think of it to a large degree, Europeans were far more complex in the structure of society, as well as the technology that they have brought to Africa as well. They were much more advanced than the African society at large, even if the collective African society was actually spread out into different regions. So it is also important to understand that the role that the European integration within Africa has brought new perspective to Africa. And some might see this new perspective as damaging, as it has trampled on the different ethnic tradition and of course belief. But think of it, there are also a lot of different positive aspects, such as forms of technology, as we said, of course, advanced medicine, and then political and democratic structure that may still be invaluable to some extent and to some degrees right now. So for the process of evolution and transformation, it was necessary at those specific time for this specific structure to become more apparent within the different African societies. However, it is important to not look away at the actual wounds at the negative aspects, and we know which one they are. They are the oppression, the slavery, hatred, and division that has been created from the European perspective into the African perspective. Because as we know, these forms need deep, deep healing by the African people. So history is once again very important in this regard. History has multiple different attributes, and some are positive, of course, and some are negative attributes. And it is important to fully recognize how they all have come to form the African society as a collective that we have up to now. So if you're able, once again, to draw the line and draw the comparison with what has happened and how we are, where we are right now, we will be able to more fully understand the lessons that has been brought to us. And then, of course, as a result, how we can heal, of course, moving forward. So over time, a lot of nations have had the opportunity, after the colonial times to rebuild themselves, whilst others were not able to fully do so due to the fact that their own development had stagnated. And this happened because of political turmoil, civil wars, and some nations were not able at all to fully express, their right to individuality. And they had no freedom because of what we know as dictatorship. So this notion needs and require a bigger and more in-depth look. However, for this brief explanation today, I would like to convey how this still can heal and how people in this country will be able to form governments that they desire to have on a more collective basis. And yes, I am talking about this, how remaking government is crucial. It is a fundamental aspect that needs to happen, not only in Africa, but also across the world. You see, the individuals who are put in power right now do not see or do not hold any necessary beneficial attributes of love and compassion, neither towards themselves nor towards others. As I've mentioned, a lot of the structures have been brought from the Europeans, from a European point of view. And as such, it is important to also look at these political structures keenly. So with this, we see that, there are people in power, not only in Africa, but also across the world. People in power over others who do not directly want to benefit the livelihoods and the experiences of others. Now we must ask ourselves, why are we allowing other individuals who do not want to benefit the vast majority of people on this planet to be in these positions? So this truly requires introspection as we ask ourselves, but are we able to elect and create forms of governance that are more in accordance with the natural laws? What I want to tell you today is that it is not impossible to create new structures which are not based on continents, tribes, nationalities, but structures that are based on principle, on certain attributes of emotion, higher degree structures based on love and compassion, not only for other individuals, but for the natural world that surrounds us. It all comes down to one fundamental aspect. It comes down to the fundamental aspect of creation. Out of what form would I like to create the structures? Would I like to create the structures to benefit financially at the end? And think of it, this is the structure in which the world operates at this right time. Or would I like to create new structures that celebrate forms of love and compassion, forms of unification, as well as experiences that bring people closer to their real divinity? So these are the questions that are important for us to ask ourselves. How would we really like to reshape the future? How has the past created the present, and how can we create a better future in this very present moment? Are we going on and rely on the past and move in the same direction? The same direction that the past has been pulling us into? Or we are going to look at the people in charge right now, at the history that has taken place, and create new opportunities? creating new opportunities of a more divine nature, creating new society that we want our children to live in isn't impossible. It just takes one intention. And Africa is quite key in the global movement of peace and unification. As think of it, there are still a lot of places in Africa that have not yet found peace. Why are people still suffering? Have we really taken a hard look at Africa and the people in Africa and thought to ourselves, are these people happy? It is quite clear that there is a lot of people still suffering in this time and age in their daily life. And why so? How can we alleviate the suffering? For some people, it's always been about foreign aid. That's been the key. But understand that medical aid or food supplies aren't a long-term solution. They may help individuals in need at that time. And it is good that we do provide these opportunities to other individuals. However, if we really want to create a sustainable future, and that's what we want for Africa, a sustainable future, it is important for us to look at how we have come to a certain situation, learn what it has taught us, and then create out of a new perspective. Because if we keep on creating out of the old perspective, then we are just going to repeat history. And that is what we are doing right now. That is the path that we have taken and we are taking. And we are repeating history as we are not learning out of the past. So to be able to heal, to be able to heal this beautiful continent, we must learn out of the past, from the numerous conflicts that have taken place from one tribe to another, by learning how colonialism has brought certain institutions, created certain factions and forms of governance that only benefit a few. And then consciously, and I repeat the word consciously, choose to avoid this trap. So moving forward, let's truly look globally at a new perspective, as Africa also plays a part in the great aspect of the world. And I would like to end with a famous quote from Albert Einstein that we use a lot at the Spiritual Council. We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. And I want you to really reflect on these words. So I'm done with my speech for today. So I would like to invite you to check out the Spiritual Council website, which is www.spiritualcouncil.org. And there you'll find more information about what we stand for, what we do, and our plan for the youth and Africa at large. And I would like to thank you so much for having me and for listening to me today.
I thank you, Valentina. That was wonderful to hear your work in South Africa. What do you think about how yoga practitioners or yoga teachers can help African community?
We have started doing projects, outreach projects as the Spiritual Council. I'm a healer mainly. I'm a pranic energy healer. And I really enjoy looking at the lights that Peter has brought to us today, because, I normally help people healing themselves with using lights. So yoga helps because yoga, people think that it's poses, it's like a sort of gymnastic. It isn't. It is a way of being. It starts with connecting with our higher soul. Start connecting with the divinity within ourselves. And the moment you connect with the divinity within you, there is no more room for conflict. There is no more room for separation. There is no more room for tribalism. There is no more room for ethnic division. There is no more room for anything that is negative in this world. And that can only be achieved by connecting with our higher soul. And that is one of the things that we are busy doing in Africa. We would like to, bring it at every level, from schools to even the poor areas, especially where they have no way to reach us through, the internet, or they have none of it. So we actually have groups going there, helping them through reconnecting with their divine self.
Great. Thank you for joining us. What is the time in Africa now? 4 o'clock?
Sorry?
What's the time in Africa?
In Africa now is 5:15 p.m. and I'm so sick that once we are done, I'm going back to bed instantly. You can hear my my nose, but I couldn't have missed meeting you today.
Sorry for bothering you. Thank you again for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks. Dr. Ada. Dr. Ada.
Yes, how are you?
I'm just looking for your page. Your video is on. Oh, we have two.
Yes.
I thought, what happened? So, Dr. Ada Juni Okika, she is Executive Director and Representative to the United Nations for the Friends of Education for African Children Orphaned by AIDS. And she's a long-time NGO representative at the UN, very active in the African diaspora NGO leaders. And we did so many events together. She always invite your community to the part of her wonderful African events, especially at the UN and the Nigerian mission. Ada, floor is for you. You have 10 minutes. Okay.
Thank you, my friend. How are you? And good evening, good day, good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you are participating from. It's wonderful being here again and being able to join my good friend in all he's doing in trying to propagate the gospel of yoga and peace. I thank you for this opportunity to be here once again with you. When I was asking you, this is the African Yoga Festival, and I said, what area of African Yoga Festival, African Yoga would you want me to come from on this event? And then you mentioned look at unity in diversity. I said, wow, what a broad context. And but it's interesting to associate unity, diversity with yoga in Africa. It's very, very interesting. So I want to thank you once again and all the speakers and Peace Light. Thank you for, I've never met you in person, but we've been enjoying your light in terms of International Days of Peace, so at the UN. So when I try to look at unity and diversity, I first of all ask myself, what actually does this mean? Unity in diversity, especially in a world where we have racism, conflict, wars, religious conflicts, issues, social issues, and of course, COVID-19 agenda. So, but in the light of it all, I feel that it's still what's being discussed. We still need to look at it and see unity in diversity as oneness, bringing religion, races, cultures, traditions together in peace and harmony. I see unity in diversity also as unity in terms of food habits, languages, and social customs. I also look at it as characteristic features of a nation connecting people in the bond of humanity and peace. Now, I want to diversify a little bit that unity, when we look at the way we were born and how we started our journey on this planet, we came through one source, our parents. And we grew up when it was time for us to go to school. We went to a school and met different cultures, different people, different family background. So first of all, we went to school in an environment of diversity. Graduating from the family to environment of diversity, we meet different people. But because we are united, we are able to stay under one roof to accept, to pass through formal education. When we graduated after the school, we tried to go into world of works. In the same spirit, we are also employed in an environment of diversity. We meet different people, different religious groups, ethnic groups, characters, social attitude, behavior, and what have you. And we fit in under one policy of employment policies and guidelines, guiding principles. Now, most of us that travel out to explore greener pastures also leave one nation to another in also trying to marry into different diversities. In fact, if I had been in my country, Nigeria, I wouldn't have met my friend here. I wouldn't have been working together all these years at the UN. So it's a diversity. And then we try to look at uniting with each other, connecting, supporting each other, getting to know each other. These are unity in diversity. So diversity is really a sine qua non in part of human development and human relationships. It's a part of our daily activities. It's a part of our daily living. Then how can we maintain unity in diversity? In terms of what we do, in terms of different people we meet, in terms of our journey through this planet, how can we maintain diversity? Bearing in mind that diversity is a part of our human existence. There is need for respect for each other in choices, trying to respect each other's choices, whether you are a Muslim, Christian, Hindu, whatever religion, whatever culture, whatever ethnic group, it is very, very important that we respect each other's choices in terms of social, economic, and political backgrounds. This is a very binding factor because we are looking at unity, bearing in mind that we are all diversified in various dimensions. Most of us that migrated from Africa to United States, we encounter what we call the asset. When we talk, you are not listening to, and when they talk, you cannot hear. You begin to struggle in order to hear someone talking to you and in order to be heard. So these were some challenges in terms of addressing diversity and unity. So respecting each other, but then in spite of all those language understanding, asset understanding issues, we still struggle to survive. We still blend into the culture, and we also merge with each other, whether you hear or you don't hear. And gradually there is a balance. You tend to understand, you tend to hear, you tend to understand one another. And the journey continues and we fit in comfortably. So there is respect for each other's choices, no matter your social background, your economic background, or political background. There's also need to give room for people to express their views, giving them space and time. I've learned one thing in this journey, that in terms of being able to attend conferences, meet people, group discussion, religious background, attend events, you are given the opportunity to express yourself. You are given space, you have your space, you are given time. And no matter your diversity, you fit in and be able to get yourself expressed. Then we also need to encourage human interactions without questioning one's religion, ethnic group, social or economic standing. We don't want to know whether you are rich or poor, whether your social background is encouraged or not encouraged, but we need to encourage human interactions. Because by doing that, we happen to learn, we have to grow our language, our vocabulary, mental vocabulary, interaction vocabulary, social relationship. We're able to maintain a level, a balance of relationship that you can call at any time. Like in this forum, I've seen Valentina, I've seen Peter, I've been hearing about Peace Light. I've never seen him, but this is so there is this kind of interaction. Of course, my friend Reverend Guruji. We have been so connected for more than 10 years now, and we've been supporting each other. That is unity in diversity. Then how do we achieve unity in diversity? It's not by war, it's not by conflict, it's not by rejection or looking down on one person, but there should be a line, an activity, a path that we can utilize to achieve unity in diversity. Because no matter how we look at it, we are all diversified. We are all, even in marriages, some of us who are from Africa marry anywhere. You can marry a European, an Indian, and so we experience diversity at every point in time. I have brothers who married Indian women and they're living happily. So these are the issues that diversity is a part of human development, of human living. And for us to appreciate it, we must try to achieve that unity at all point in time. There should be need for balancing in development. If you're a leader in any form, in any capacity, you don't say, okay, my leadership is only for my religion or my group or my ethnic group. There should be balance, there should be good spread. There should be developmental harmony in every situation we are. Even we that are in civil societies, in civil society organizations, doing all we need to do in order to support the work of the United Nations, those of us who align our mission to marry with the agenda of the United Nations. We try to also bring in different, depending on their target group, work towards an integrative approach, getting people from here and there to work or to understand what you are doing or to join what you are doing. So there is that balancing in development, which is where not minding your ethnic group and religion or social issues or whatever, when there must be balance in that aspect. There should be respect for human will, aspiration, and needs of the people. When we want to balance unity in diversity, we need to respect human intelligence. We need to also appreciate human aspirations. Now we are here supporting Reverend Guruji's aspiration in terms of what he's trying to do in terms of yoga and peace. So there's that continuity of what we are trying. We need to get together to always encourage each other. And that is by not minding that we are not from the same ethnic group, we are not from the same parents, we are not from the same, we don't have the same gender, but we align ourselves to support one another, encourage one another. That is a part of achieving unity in diversity. There should be need to identify genuine problems, root causes of problems, and address them. When we don't identify the causes of problems, like for instance, we are into the 2030 development agenda, the world is in such a chaos, COVID-19 areas, poverty, hunger, health issues, gender inequalities, and all what unclean water, youth problems, and everything. Some communities, a lot of communities that are confronting each other. So there has to be, identification of these problems, and then we address them, find out the root cause. And where I come from, Nigeria, we must hear from the news, a lot of killing, a lot of that, some groups are coming out with peace talks through the media, prayers, and all the rest of them. But yes, these are part of solution, but are they the root cause is the question. Because in spite of all these things, the killings still continue. Hunger, and when there is this kind of issues, it affects human comportments, it affects everything. Business is derailed, economic development is affected, feeding and food and health, everything is inclusive because people are afraid. If it is a job you go out early in the morning, you cannot go out again. People don't know how to go to the farm, to farm the food that we take to the market in the mornings because of what? Fear of being killed. So if we identify the root cause and then be able to balance it, then we are now talking about unity and diversity. Because at every community, at every situation, there are diversities. Even in Christian community, you talk about Catholic, you talk about Pentecostal, you talk about Episcopal, you talk about this and that and this and that. So there are a lot in diversity, but there should be need of harmony, harmonizing them together. Then when Peter was talking, he mentioned issue about the curriculum experts building the yoga, and I think that's a very good initiative, that in terms of trying to address the yoga festivals, there's need to come into having a curriculum that will specify diversity, yoga activities in diversity. Because in my tribe, what we use to have a yoga festival activities might not be what Indians are used, but there should be need. If my tribe can learn that of Indians, and Indians can learn part of us. So there should be need to consider diversities, cultural diversities, ethnic diversities, social diversities in trying to build the curriculum in terms of yoga to be able to address, to maintain the continuity of unity that we are addressing on. And an example of, we know that United Nations is an apex body of 190-something countries. And at that level, they sit down to agree and come out with policies. In that, all the member states agree, align, reason, share, come up with a decision, not minding their various nationalities, their various groups and everything. So United Nations is a good example of working in unity and working on unity in diversity. And then we also talk about yoga, about the yoga activities. The yoga activities are also an instrument or an example of unity in diversity, because when you are there, once you are interested in issue about yoga, then it doesn't matter your culture, it doesn't matter your ethnicity, it doesn't matter your religious background. You all group there together to align yourself in terms of the activities that brought you together. So at any point in time, there is something that brings us together. There is something that brings humanity together. And if we understand all this, then why conflict? Why wars? Why not have the spirit of supporting one another to exist? That is what the unity in diversity is all about. So we must strive, even as we sit, even as we commune, even as we join and support each other. Let us continue to strive to balance the equation of unity in diversity. Whether we are using yoga, whether we are in school, whether you are at work and everything, that existed, that community has brought, the fact that community has brought us together is an ideal situation for us to strive, for us to work, to keep a balance in unity and diversity. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ada. That was wonderful. Working with you, the beautiful message you gave to the people, because I always think about my family in Africa. So I know that they are the people who suffered a lot in the world. So this is the time to bring them to the front line. We do whatever we can, So I offer all of my support to you and all of Remy and all other people in different ways, in my personal capacity and the capacity from the organization. Either way, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dr. Remy Alapo is our chief is here. Dr. Remy. Here I like to invite Chief Lukman Ojra Aramfale is a Yoruba High Chief of Oyotunji Kingdom in South Carolina. His chief is here. Dr. Remy Alapo. In that case, I had to invite our guest of honor, His Excellency Ambassador Isaac Shabala. Is a former permanent representative of Zambia to the United Nations and the European Union. He is currently became part of the Value Community Global Council. Ambassador. Keep one in mute. Yes, Ambassador.
Thank you.
You may have to stop one device because of the echo is here. Ambassador.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's an echo. I think you have computer and the cell phone. Your cell phone. Cannot device together to create an echo and disturb the sound. Can you try? Are you using the cell phone for the sound? Can you use only one device, either phone or take the phone? I am calling you.
Hello, Guru. Yes, what is the...
I think you may are not able to hear us. Some kind of connection problem, but we can hear you. You can just speak.
I can just go, okay, I'm just waiting on. Oh, all right. Thank you again for the kind invitation to join the celebration of the International Year of Yoga. And first of all, I should express my gratitude to my beloved friend and brother, Guruji, who, in my view, is the very embodiment of the essence and values of yoga. Now, before I get into the substance of my presentation, I just want to acknowledge what perhaps most of you, if not all of you, know, that we are meeting on this occasion at a time when Zambia, my original country of birth, and the rest of Africa are mourning the passing of our beloved founding father and first president of the Republic of Zambia. And therefore, I would like to just to request a few moments of prayer and meditation in reverence and respect to this beloved ancestor. Thank you, most kindly. To me and my generation, that President Kenneth Kaunda was really the embodiment of the very values that we are meeting to commemorate. Values best exemplified by the spiritual practices of yoga, meditation, and physical and other practices. But most importantly, it's the benefits and the purpose of yoga. We are all familiar with the healing, the health, and as well as the harmony aspects of yoga. And I believe that these attributes are extremely useful, not just for the practitioner, the individual who is committed to this practice, but most importantly, it is how the individual manifests them in our relationships, within the family, within the community, and within society. So as you know, yoga comes from yoga, meaning to connect, to balance. And therefore, it is extremely important that the values and benefits of yoga should be disseminated. And it's the responsibility of everyone who practices these attributes to go beyond just the self and to reach out and connect with others. Now, I'm saying this because, again, speaking in the context of Africa, and by the way, as we all know, Africa is the birthplace of humanity. Yes, Africa is the birthplace of humanity. And we come, of course, they are from the philosophical roots of Ubuntu. I am because we are. So the individual has relevance and impact in the context of community. And there you see the links, the connections, which again are at the core of yoga. So it's important for us more, and perhaps this is a marketing or promotional aspect, that we beat up the drums and purposefully disseminate the benefits of yoga. Perhaps more importantly than where or this originated, more importantly, and again going back to Africa as a context, no values, really the essential eternal values, came outside of Africa. But we know that, of course, yoga, the practices of yoga have been very much perfected in India, in other Asian countries. But most importantly, the point I'm making, and this has relevance to what's going on, and especially for our younger generation, they should realize just what the benefits of yoga are. And in doing that, also look back to the past, because this is an ancient practice. It's a spiritual practice. And at the heart of spirituality is eternity. So for the younger generation, we have to deliberately reach out, and the responsibility for that devolves at the individual and also at the collective levels. And here I must commend my good friend, Guruji and brother. You know, the work that is done over the years to bring this practice, yoga, to be celebrated at the pinnacle of the global community here at the United Nations. And he has reached out, continues to reach out, for instance, to the extent now, and a special congratulations to target Africa. Yes, I sincerely believe that awakening, and again, especially the younger generations worldwide, to the benefits of this spiritual practice would help us in confronting the challenges of the present as well as of the future. Now, going back briefly to the former president, now late Kaunda, I know from direct experience, because I had the privilege, among other people of our generation, to work and to serve with him. He was an eminent practitioner. Most people perhaps don't know about this, but he was a deeply spiritual person. And I recall that first time I came more or less in contact with the eminent meditational guru, Maharishi. It was in large measure through what the meditation as a practice, the benefits of it. For instance, in contributing to the resolution of the conflict that we had in Mozambique, you know, the civil war there. And most people may not know it, but I'm familiar with this, that we had the practice of meditation introduced deliberately and also targeted at the armed forces, our soldiers. And by the way, the practice in this case was transcendental meditation. And I know this has been documented. You can look it up in Google. The practice over years contributed to the promotion of the culture of peace and therefore conflict resolution. So I know that late President Kaunda and of course, at the time, President Machel and other leaders in their private spiritual space have recourse to the spiritual practice of yoga and others. So, number one responsibility for all of us who are practitioners to deliberately seek to reach out to others. And the best way of doing that is through personal example. You know, at my level, my personal level, I've been practicing yoga meditation for a long time, to be precise, over 33 years. And in my case, it came more or less, I wouldn't say by accident, but I was suffering from a very debilitating condition, migraine. It was a migraine condition, and it was really making me, to put it mildly, suffer to the extent that I was started having blackouts here at the United Nations. As you know, there's tremendous reading that has to be done, drafting resolutions, etc., and speeches, etc. I reached a point where the modern, in quotes, medicines, you know, the Tylenols, etc., were not having any impact at all when I had these attacks. And one day, I consulted with a personal friend of mine, a doctor, and I said to him, look, I just can't function like this. I have work to do. And my doctor friend said to me, Isaiah, I tell you, there's no cure for migraine. But why don't you try meditation? I said, meditation, what are you talking about? And cut a long story short, he introduced me to a friend downtown here in New York. And I went there and I paid a small $500, etc., and enrolled in a TM, Transcendental Meditation. And the instructor who was attending to me, first of all, I told him, well, I've done a little bit of reading about this. Isn't this a product of Buddhism? And
Ambassador, can you hear us?
I get a message that you have removed me from the meeting.
There's another account.
I'm sorry?
There is another account. You have two devices which was making the noise. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah,
Yes.
you are set. You can hear
set.
you can hear us. And Remy and the chief from the North Carolina is waiting for them to finish it. You all stay in the line, and they will finish, and they had to go for the African event. Today is a Juneteenth event. So when I called their name, they were not able to join. So chief can say a few words and he will leave, then you can continue. Is that good?
That'll be good. That's fine.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Remy, please unmute yourself.
Everybody, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, Alafia. I'm in Oyotunji Kingdom, Oyotunji Yoruba Kingdom in Sheldon, South Carolina. I bring you peace and greetings. And I'm at the shrine of the Oshun priestess and Oshun goddess, which is the goddess of the river, vitality, river of peace, mother of peace, all good things. And I welcome you, everybody, this morning to join this program. And I'll be showcasing different, sections of this shrine before going to Chief Lukman. So I want to give you a brief introduction of what Oyotunji Yoruba Kingdom actually is and how it was formed. This is a village that is recognized by the state of South Carolina and also recognized by the Yoruba nation in Nigeria as one of the diaspora Yoruba kingdoms. Of course, we have other descendants kingdoms in Brazil, in Cuba, and so many other places of Yoruba descendants who were taken during the transatlantic slave trade and found themselves in the Americas. So this place was formed in the early 70s by descendants of Yoruba tradition and kingdom in Nigeria, but of course, they're descendants, African Americans, who founded this location. And it's been a haven to preserve the language, the culture, the tradition. If you actually visit, you will think that you were somewhere in Africa. You wouldn't know that, you're in the United States. So we're leaving the outskirts of the shrine of Oshun goddess, and we're gonna walk into where, she's revered as a deity, and that's our image here. So this is that priestess. Of course, there are many forms, and many people have their own understanding of what it is. And what you see on the wall says Ile Oshun, which means Oshun's house. And people just come, for spirituality, for healing, to pay homage, say prayers for unity, for progress, for peace, for just tranquility. And as many people know, today has been recognized as a federal holiday in the United States, June 19th, which is Juneteenth, which is the official proclamation or declaration that African American slaves were free. But of course, in addition to celebrating that freedom, many people, African Americans, have come through a lot of struggle. And in those times of struggle, we need to give thanks. We need to remember to continue to pray for peace, to pray for unity, to pray for collaboration. It is not a time to blame it. It is a time to actually celebrate our differences, our uniqueness, our commonalities. It is a time to work together, to bring people together. So here is the shrine. And as you can see, Chief Lukman is the High Chief in the Oyotunji Kingdom. He's originally from Yoruba land in Nigeria, where I am from. And, you know, with our collaboration, we want to instill or continue to support the principles of the Yoruba culture and tradition in many of the descendants who are outside of Nigeria. So I'm going to give you Chief Lukman. He's going to say some greetings and pay some homage. And maybe he'll give you some introduction, better introduction, because he's a high chief in Yoruba tradition. So here's Chief Lukman.
Short introduction. I don't want to make ambassador wait long time. Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Namaste, namaste.
I'm going to take this opportunity to thank the convener of this African Yoga Festival. It is long overdue, and you are appreciated. The convener is appreciated. So, despite the fact that virtually most of us from different parts of the world have different mythology, just like in India, like in Gambia, in so many other countries of African descent. We have so many deities, which if other things were equal, they would be treated as the European called Jesus. Some of them have performed a lot of wonders. And for example, the deity of Oshun, which I am in front of here, the deity of Oshun was so powerful, and what actually happened was the fact that she sacrificed herself for peace, tranquility, and cooperation, because when she could not bear a child, another women, so they were fighting, the husband were fighting, and all those kind of a thing. But as somebody that imbibed by the gods, she was so powerful that she turned herself into the river in order to appease tranquility. And thereabout, what she said during the river is that anybody that wants peace, especially people that are looking for children, once they take the water, she will provide, the river will provide a child for them. And this have been manifested, not just saying. It has been manifested, and people have already been able to say this was true. Though the fact that most of our history and mythology are passed on, most of them are not recorded, but due to that, many that have passed on still linger on into the mind of most of us that are into the tradition. So now this is the deity of Oshun. Oshun deity, this is the Oshun deity. What we do is, if we need peace in the kingdom, for example, we came and sacrificed with water and some little gift and pray unto the Oshun for us to have tranquility, to have peace. And if any child is sick, and is brought before Oshun deity and prayer were rendered, Oshun deity will provide that child to be okay. So we have seen recorded history. We have seen recorded history, because I don't want to go into the history of the Oyotunji Kingdom, because Dr. Remy has already said a few, and I don't want to take most of our time. I just want to say that it's about time that we collaborate more. That is why I am thanking and expressing a gratitude to the organizer or convener of this yoga festival, because the spirituality behind it is what some of the Europeans cannot even manifest. They cannot understand it. How can you appease a God and you get what you wanted? But it happens because of the power and the prayer. And in those days, don't forget, these powerful people come to this world. They came to this world. When they are here, when they want to go, they will turn to whatever. Like in India, some people turn it, according to history, some people turn into snake, which is being idolized. Some people turn into monkey, which is being idolized one way or the other. That is their spiritualism. But in Yoruba land, the Oshun deity is a peace-loving deity. That when you come to Oshun and pray for goodness, Oshun will provide it. When you come to Oshun and pray for peace, Oshun will provide it. When you come here and pray for tranquility, Oshun will provide it. So this deity is being a powerful deity that virtually most people, especially of the Yorubas, we always have an annual festival celebrating Oshun every year in Oshogbo, southwestern state of Nigeria, Every year, people with sickness will come there. People with sickness, different sickness. And once they're able to get the water, drink it or rub it on the part that have problems, they have seen changes. So with this light, this is a deity that we cannot forget. In fact, at one point, Samanja, who was a German, was the one catering for the Oshun. She's the custodian of the Oshun deity. Before you go there, she lives there. She lived there all her life, and she died there. So you can imagine she's a wife from a German country, married to a Nigerian, and came to Nigeria, and ever since she has adopted that Oshun. So she became the custodian of that deity, and everything she does is to maintain and make sure things are done right. And everybody are now working in a path. But in Oyotunji now, we have the deity here. It does the same thing. Whether you are anywhere there is wind, when you pray to the gods, it will be answered if you really and truly believe in it. So at this point, I don't have much to say, but to show you the deity. And if you have any question, I will take it from there. This is the deity. We just celebrated the deity yesterday, Oshun deity yesterday. So these are some of the gifts that were brought. You will see them on the floor. You won't know who is going to come and pick it in the middle of the night. You just find they are not there anymore. And it's not person that is coming to pick them up. So with this mind, I think we should have more collaboration of this nature so that we can share the spiritualism of each and every people of different culture. So with this mind, I will end by saying thank you for convening this.
Thank you, Chief and Dr. Remy.
Thank you so much, Guruji, for welcoming us to this program today. And thank you, Chief Lukman. So that is a snippet from Oyotunji Kingdom on the shrine of Oshun, the river goddess, the goddess of peace, the goddess of tranquility, the goddess of collaboration, and the goddess of healing. So I believe that as I'm visiting here, there will be more opportunity to meet other people who are here in Oyotunji Kingdom as time goes on. And again, Guruji, you're a God sent, and I sincerely appreciate all the collaborations we've had. And I'm so grateful this morning that we were able to bring at least some snippet of Yoruba tradition into your African Yoga Festival today, which is also the celebration of Juneteenth. So Thank you, God bless everybody. And we're on our way to Charleston for Juneteenth event. So sorry we have to leave, but in the car, I'm going to continue. I'll be on, but I won't be able to speak. But Chief Lukman wants to know if anyone has any question for him before he departs.
We had to go back to Ambassador Shabala because he was speaking. Because of his...
Sorry?
Ambassador Shabala was speaking. We asked him to hold on. Now we had to go back to him because otherwise...
Okay, no problem. So all right, thank you so much and regards to everybody. God bless.
Share my regards and love to my brother King in the Yoruba.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay,
thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Ambassador Shabala, again, floor is for you. Sorry for the disruption.
Not at all. Thank you. And thank you very much, Chief Lukman, Dr. Remy there for sharing. That's extremely important input. In fact, I was going to touch on Juneteenth a little later, but it really touches on the aspect that I mentioned, that we have in Africa such an abundance of practices, cultural practices, and those which sadly in many African countries were either ignored or destroyed, or there was a deliberate attempt to destroy, dismiss them during the colonial period. And fortunately, because of, at least through oral history, these have been preserved. And yes, it's extremely important, especially coming back to the point of collaboration, which the Chief spoke to. It is extremely important, again, touches on the aspect I mentioned, that for us to deliberately, purposefully connect, collaborate with others, especially with other guardians of the spiritual practices, which all have the purpose of what? Maintaining and promoting peace. And so thank you again for that segment. Going back to the point I was making, and I was using my personal experience example. I had not known much about meditation until I reached a point of crisis in my life, with the migraine condition that had afflicted my life for a long time. And so a doctor friend of mine referred me to downtown to an instructor. And before the instructor started his work, I asked him, tell me, I've been reading something, I've read something about this meditation, TM, Transcendental Meditation. This was back in 1988, by the way. And so the instructor said, yes, and what is it? I said, well, I know that it has origin in Buddhism. Now, so he looks at me, he says, yes. So is that a problem? And I said, well, I am a Christian. I told him, I'm of the Christian faith. And he said, yes. And I'm a Catholic priest. So now I'm mentioning that because, again, from direct experience, sometimes there's a tendency to perhaps consciously or unconsciously we sort of recall this, we are driven into this, in quotes, I'll say, it's sort of like the prejudice, meaning we tend to be prejudiced because we have been brought up in a particular spiritual tradition, like in this case, I being Christian, therefore everything else should not matter. Now, cutting a long story short, for me, it was a source of a tremendous experience in that I learned the technique of TM because that's what the instructor said, yes, it's a technique. It's a technique for you to find harmony and then ultimately you should be able to get over your problem. And yes, within 6 weeks, cut a long story short, the migraine condition just disappeared. And I've never had a migraine attack since then. Now, more importantly, because now I'm old enough, mature enough to look back over my life. It was not just that TM, Transcendental Meditation, helped to provide the healing benefit. And as you know, here at the United Nations, it's extremely important. You have to be in good shape. And most importantly is that for me, it subsequently helped to open my areas of collaboration. It enhanced my connectedness, my collaboration with other faiths. I became more interfaith. This is now my passion, beyond just my Christian background and growth. You know, my spirituality has expanded to embrace all of the other faiths. I don't have any prejudice at all. And that is important because, as we know, differences of religion, etc., still are the causes of conflict. So I believe that it's important in going back to the marketing or promotion, and you heard it from also the chief, that we, because now I regard myself as part of this, we of the yoga community, and Brother Guruji's organization is aptly called World Yoga Community. We have to make deliberate, purposeful efforts to reach out globally and targeting children or the young children and the youths, etc. And that will help to go to overcome the challenges that we have of, unconscious perhaps, or conscious bias based on all religion. So that's one point I would like to highlight. The other point, which again is part at the heart of yoga, is part of the connection, is that on our own, individually, without religious practice of these spiritual methodologies, etc., without that, we cannot attain that level of spirituality, meaning that connectedness with the supreme source. Because that's important, because on our own efforts, we cannot. But we draw strength from our connection from the source, the supreme source, the creator God. And we do that, of course, through the Spirit. The Spirit bestows on us the strength that we need through our practice to reach out beyond self or personal growth, beyond the personal benefits that we derive from yoga to others. And we do that, this is manifested through our gifts. And again, for instance, there are many traditions, including the Christian tradition, we have the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit. The fruits of the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, among them essentially love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. We can add others. Forgiveness, that of course comes from love. So these spiritual fruits are in essence what we derive from, and I would underline, religious practice, regular practice of yoga. That's an aspect which is extremely important, especially in the times we live on now. Issues like where we are, issues not just here, but globally, of racism, issues of gender inequality, issues of climate justice, etc. and issues of income, wealth, inequalities, etc. All these scourges essentially are byproducts or the products of a world that is delinked, disconnected from the source, the supreme source, the will and purpose of the supreme source. So it's extremely important. And again, speaking as we are here at United Nations, the context of United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals. And these, in fact, compels us, especially reaching out. Again, I'm looking at the young generation, because we as adults, we have messed up. Yes, we have messed up this world. Even now, we know there's a large segment of the population, for instance, in the United States, who still deny there is climate change, this global warming, etc., and the first of deny. Now, deliberately or willfully or not. I'm just giving us an example. You see, how do we counter that? There's, again, deliberate efforts targeting the young, the youth population, whose future, sustainable future, we want to guarantee. And so, how best, in my humble view, focusing on spiritual and moral values as the toolkit would help us collectively, and especially the younger folks, to address much of the injury that we, the adults, have inflicted, perhaps consciously or unconsciously, on them. And this goes way beyond, it transcends the racial, the ethnic, the religious, etc. That doesn't matter. You see, going back to the chief, the point he was making, when the more we collaborate, and the messaging, again, this is a sort of a marketing thing, the messaging has to be to target what are the benefits and what harm can we overcome of yoga and other spiritual values. When we target the message deliberately, it's going to help our future generation contribute to the sustainable development under the SDGs, etc. As we all know, for instance, right now as we speak, there are attempts, very serious attempts. For instance, I'll mention just now because we are spiritual people, Texas and other states, deliberate attempts to rewrite the history. For instance, in this particular case, what should be taught to the children? What sort of history should be taught? And here comes the point of Juneteenth, you know, sort of critical race theory, etc. Now, that's extremely, and that's why as we celebrate, talking briefly about the Juneteenth, and I commend President Biden for signing this into law as a federal holiday. As we do that, let's be mindful, because these, and again, signing something into law is just the first step. Much of it, everything depends on how we, again, collectively, not just here, but the world over, come together to ensure that the celebration enables us to look back, yes, learn the lessons, and again, even reaching out to those who have benefited and continue to benefit from the legacy of slavery. Reaching out to them deliberately, because if we just say, oh yes, we have now this is a holiday, and the holiday comes, how do we celebrate? Educational outreach deliberately. Come up with projects to ensure that the history of the evil of slavery and slave trade are inculcated. They should become the part of the DNA of our generation and future generation. because there have been attempts to deny that slavery was, after all, not a bad thing. You know, so it is extremely, extremely important. Education, 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 and good marketing tools, packages, globally. That's the only way we can. Justice and peace. The struggle for justice and peace, it's an eternal, permanent struggle. We should not let up. So, again, I'm looking at the interconnectedness of first the issues that face us, racial, gender, climate, injustices, income, wealth, inequality, etc. And what is the best? How best can we tackle this? Not through hatred or paying back, as Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said, you cannot overcome hate with hate. No, love does it. Okay, so, and here again, yoga teaches just that. Teaches the power of love and how best to execute the struggle for justice and peace using the arsenal of the spiritual gifts, love, joy, peace, etc. So it's extremely important. I'm glad that we're meeting at this time. I don't believe in my word this is by coincidence, that Brother Guruji, you came up with this, targeting Africa first, and then later on. But in fact, we should invite you to Africa, and we should start establishing deliberately, establishing these connections and sort of, if you like, departments, etc., in a number of countries in Africa. And you know, my favorite, as I said, I talk about children, all this, but especially the mothers, the women. As you know, that's my vocation: women empowerment and gender equality. Right? Is women, 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 women. They are the custodians of these practices, and I know they do it gently. They do it behind closed doors. That's the women. But ultimately, they are the ones who are, they are our mothers, and they're the ones who can best help us reach out as best we can to everyone. And when I say women, women across Africa, across everywhere, because one of the evils that we have still ongoing, and we are reaping the byproducts of injustice, is patriarchy. Patriarchy, the deliberate domination of one sex over the other. This, like other evils of slavery, etc., poverty, violence, are very much at variance with the will and purpose of creation. We were created for love and out of love. So patriarchy or gender injustice is one, continues to be one of the evils. The other I've referenced is colonialism and slavery, which is an abomination, an affront to the will of God. So it's important, and again, I am looking ahead. Instead of going back to when I said June is not by coincidence at all. It's not a coincidence that these things are happening. Look, celebration of Juneteenth, one has said, and again there, I keep repeating, we have to ask ourselves, even as we look back to the grim history, the dark stains of slavery, which sadly has been sustained through systemic racism and institutionalized racism. As we do that, let's not sit back, be spectators. We have to be actors. Get involved to ensure that the consequences of slavery, systemic and institutionalized racism, that they are overcome. In fact, they are completely abolished. In any way we can do it. We can reach out. And I know even as there's one statistic, a Pew, for instance, a Pew organization has cited one of the statistic that 75% of the white population do not reach out, have not reached out. For instance, they don't have friends like they can cite as non-white. It's a very important thing. But we, the other non-whites, can reach out to the, but encourage. There's to be a way through prayer, through meditation. Again, this is the point, because we have to build this intercultural community. Making it, providing incentives for our white community folks to develop, to collaborate, friendships with the non-whites. And this can, again, starting at the, with the young, the youth, etc. This will help for the future, challenge, really confront and avoid the problems that we have. Because if people do not connect and do not communicate, cannot even have a normal discussion of interracial, etc. If you can't do that, then how can you overcome the evil of racism? It is not possible. But again, we do that out of love, out of mutual respect for the dignity, the human dignity and divinity of all persons. So I just want to, again, sort of terminate. This is something very passionate, and I'm happy that we're having this conversation. It's just the beginning of it, and especially the message of let us connect with Africa. And the persons, people of, I would say in the diaspora, African diaspora, and again here, I commend the African Union. We have now literally a sixth province of the African Union, the diaspora, Africa diaspora. People in the diaspora, let's get them involved in this yoga, using yoga and other spiritual practices to connect us all. And by so doing, make a contribution to the implementation of sustainable development goals. Let me end, Guruji.
Yeah.
Again, going back to where I started, the passing of our beloved founding father and first president of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda. He, by the way, when we became independent, he's the one who suggested and decided on 24th of October as Zambia's National Day. And he did that deliberately. He did that deliberately. And the main purpose was to forge this relationship with the United Nations. In fact, Zambia is the only country that celebrates independence on 24th of October with the United Nations. And the challenge was for Zambia, this young country, which became in 1964, 24th, to forge deliberately the relationships with the United Nations. As you know, of course, Zambia was a byproduct of the United Nations, the passage of the United Nations Declaration of Independence of 1960. And so it was a deliberate effort. Now, this is a small country, and I was but a teenager at the time. I was doing high school. And it was very interesting. Through that, what he did, he launched, is a challenge. He challenged us, the youth, me and my young generation, challenged us to join the public service in order to serve Zambia, in order to serve the region of Southern Africa, in order to serve Zambia, and above all, to serve the world community. So some of us took on that challenge. And I recall, I had majored in economics and French. And of course, I had lucrative, when I say lucrative in terms of paying money, etc. And, so I deliberately, I immediately jumped on it. And I said, turn down all these offers from French companies and others, which would have paid me a lot of money. But I said, no, the minimum I could do for my country is to join the public service. And I was a product of the first university established by Zambia. The Brits, we were a British colony for so many years, as you know, decades. They did not establish a university at the United Nations. In Zambia. Zambia had only 100 university graduates, and they were all educated outside of the territory, and 1,000 high school graduates. I was one of the 1,000 high school graduates. And President Kaunda and these leaders of that generation decided on free university, free education. Everything was free. Health, free. And so I was among the first cohort of the University of Zambia. After graduation, so I jumped on this challenge. And I joined the Foreign Affairs, because partly I was fluent in French, but most importantly, the economics as well. And then after that, they sent me for graduate work at Oxford, and they came back to serve. Since then, I served more than 30 years, et cetera, et cetera. The point I'm making is I took up the challenge to serve the people. Of course, there are other ways we can serve the people. Most importantly is the heart. Where does your heart go? President Kaunda, was very instrumental in my formation. And then after that, I came to learn about a lot of other things about this man, the discipline, the traits that he exhibited, he manifested. He was the son of a preacher man, or a priest, if you will. And he was just exemplary to us. He was our father. And even as I look back, and we celebrate his life, I remember very well, what a privilege, and I thank God to have worked and served with him, directly and indirectly. This is a model of moral leadership, spiritual leadership, and part of, in fact, I would say, the essence of yoga, the yogic values are just that, to make us, first of all, healthy individuals and connect mind, body, etc. But most importantly, healthy to serve the larger community. Back to the African Ubuntu. Yes, I am healthy because I contribute and live in a healthy community. So I pay tribute to him. He transformed many of our lives. And again, focus on moral leadership, spiritual leadership, whatever it is. We don't look at the face, the color of this, whatever. No. Listen to the conscience, the inner voice of the people with whom we connect. That's most importantly, and that's what will help us. And coming to the country, President Kaunda, of course, he led the country for 27 years, turned Zambia into, I'll say in Southern Africa, to be committed to the principles of freedom and independence. And I know that, as many of us will know, Zambia, immediately after independence, 1964, immediately after that, announced has strong support for the liberation movement and against apartheid regime, white apartheid regime. And as you know, some of you may know, again, it's important to get the history. Zambia hosted the headquarters of the African National Congress when Nelson Mandela was incarcerated. As you know, Nelson Mandela, I remember this, on the 6th of June, 1964, a few months before Zambia's independence, was incarcerated. By the way, June, I love June. Well, I love all months, but it's my birth, by the way, it's my birth month as well. I was born 10th of June. So Zambia hosted the African National Congress headquarters for more than 30 years until Nelson Mandela was liberated or freed. Now, the point I'm making there, and it's important because that exposed Zambia and all of us for the first time to welcoming people who were different from us. We say different in terms of, with all ethnicities. By the way, when Zambia became independent, we were 72 dialects, ethnic groups. And his task, fighting for independence, was to first forge a unity under the One Zambia, One Nation, etc. Now, immediately after independence, we were now able to welcome the refugees, people who are running away, escaping the tyranny of colonialism, of white supremacy in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, what was North Rhodesia back then. We welcomed them and they became part of the Zambian community. And I recall very well, I know many of them, I want to mention them by name, when they came, like members of the African National Congress, they were literally became Zambians. We gave them nationality, passports, because they needed the passports to come to the United Nations, to travel abroad. So they were essentially us, we. So that's one of the sacrifices and I'll say benefits of the kind of moral leadership we had under President Kaunda. The same thing happened to the Namibia, for instance, which country known, it used to be known as Southwest Africa. Again, Zambia hosted the headquarters of SWAPO at the time, Southwest African People's Organization. I was a young diplomat at the time. And of course, subsequently, I was there at the United Nations, and Zambia was the chairman or president of the United Nations Council for Namibia. And speaking at the regional Africa level, Nigeria, for instance, was the presidency here at the United Nations of the presidency of the, it was the Apartheid Committee. And Tanzania had the presidency of the Decolonization Committee, etc. So that's Africa. Again, Zambia in concert with the African countries, doing what? practicing the essence or of yogic values: harmony, health, healing, and the spiritual dimensions. So again, going back, I've talked about President Kaunda, the legacy that he leaves with us, and many of us directly and others indirectly, in the context of what? Promoting peace and also in harmony with everybody else. Now, thank you. I have talked a lot, but you can understand this is what partly when you say you are celebrating, in this case, we are the life of our former president, but essentially when we get it, for instance, the practice of meditation and like I'm doing, fasting, etc. You acknowledge willingly your weaknesses. At the same time, your dependence on the Creator God. Isn't that beautiful? And ultimately, as you know, all of us, you come out the stronger because you have reflected on the past and asked of yourself, what have I done? What can I do for the present and for posterity? So again, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you,
World Yoga community and all of us brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I'm recording with the 4 people on the screen. Maybe you are not seeing, but here I can see Ambassador and Dr. Vinamai Sharma and Dr. Shashi Kumar and me are on the screen for recording. So I'm glad you brought all the points. Even I don't know a lot of things at the UN, You always bring new knowledge. And definitely I offer all of my help to uplift the community from Africa. And I always have a thought and feeling for them and love for them in my heart. And you know how we do things together, So here I want to invite my friends to make few remarks. That is Dr. Shashi Kumar ji and Vinamra Sharma ji. Dr. Shashi Kumar, go first.
Namaskaram and my great pranams to Ambassador. Because of internet problem, I couldn't listen complete, but I had a very single question because you were with the United Nations. One of the most comfortable word in the development society using soft power to probably get into the hands of the developed nations over what the word they use is sustainable development. I always keep on asking a question, whose sustainable development? In their vision, who has to sustain? Who are really sustaining with this sustainable development? Will you be able to throw some light with your great expertise of working with bigger nations?
Thank you. If I may, thank you very much for that question. See, that is the sustainable development is now the framework, the global framework for, and it's important, the attainment of the peace, the global holistic peace that we collectively at the United Nations have been assigned. And I would, it's important that what does this framework essentially embrace? And you know, first directly question, the point you said, whose development, sustainable development? That's the sustainable development of our humanity, basically. Now, who should sustain? The responsibility devolves on all of us. The United Nations, of course, representatives of governments, but most importantly, are the three words, first words of the UN Charter, the preamble: we the peoples. We the peoples. And I'm saying this, I've had connections with, or I've been affiliated with the United Nations for over 40 years, etc. But sometimes when you get out, you're talking, say, oh, you are from the United Nations. You know, the outside of it, you know, people, there's this feeling, oh, it's only you, us, people who work in the secretariat, who work for the delegations and UN agencies, you know. Now, I'm saying this, no. In essence, and again, it has to do also partly with the marketing part of it, and this is where civil society is extremely important, because civil society is what Brother Guruji has been doing with World Yoga Community. You know, they are best placed to disseminate what the United Nations preaches, proclaims. It's not the governments. Well, the governments you can accept no. It's, we want power to devolve in the hands of the peoples. And who are the people? And this is where the issue of democracy is extremely important. Democratizing the sharing and exercise of power. The issue of voting, ensuring that people vote fairly, right? And this is extremely important, because this is what's happening. We have an issue here in the United States now, what's going on. Everybody knows now. There are deliberate attempts to ensure that the exercise of a vote is restricted. In many states right now, there are bills as I speak that have been passed to restrict the voting on the part of certain demographics. You know, like in this case, to be very blunt, the Black, the brown, the indigenous folks. So I'm saying we the peoples, the civil society have a role, critical role, to ensure that, you know, they make a stand. And I know this is happening by what? By doing what they need to do. Ensure that the power of the people, their constituencies, is enhanced vis-a-vis the United Nations goals. So yes, the beneficiaries of this, of course, in the Sustainable Development Goals, are just, it's our humanity. And the people who have to ensure this are we, the peoples. The governments have a role, yes. The technocrats have an important role, fine. But especially the civil society movement have a very important role. Now, if I may come to when you look at the Sustainable Development Goal, the framework of it, and this targeting, very important, we call them the P's, peace, just a few, peace, to ensure peace, prosperity is one, and then we have also the people. By the way, people comes first, the first P. People, peace, progress, partnership, and there's another, which have, planet, yes. So it's a encompassing, and this is again important and relevant to yoga, the interconnectedness of our people the people's needs, peace, prosperity, the planet, and partnerships. That we have to do all these in partnerships, therefore collaboration, therefore connectedness, and using what tools, especially, and I've focused, there are a lot of others, focused on this, on the spiritual dimension, spirituality. I know you don't, it's extremely important. I belong to, I'm special advisor on one of the committee on spirituality and global concerns at the United Nations. It is a civil society. The idea our purpose is to awaken, to more or less propagate the essence of spirituality, our moral spiritual values and ethical principles in the work of the United Nations. This is small, but it's extremely important. So hopefully I've answered the, in a sense, but it's the question.
We have only 5 minutes left because I have another event in White Plains. I have to leave very soon. I want to give chance to Vinama Sharma to make a remark. So we'll continue this dialogue. We have more days are coming from 20th to 30th. We have different events. So rest of the questions you can ask in between. Not on 30th and 21st, all other days we have open forum, so you will able to ask questions. Vinarma Sharma ji.
Thank you, Guruji. My pranam to the Ambassador sir. Really, thanks to Ambassador sir, we shared that very good, great experience. Many things are new for me. So. I'm happy to say that we have a difference of opinion and we belong to the various countries, regions, or we have different language. But we have a same opinion where our thinkings meet to each of us that we believe in the God, we believe in the supernatural power, and everyone wants to live a happy life, and long life. So yeah, it was a great experience, and also thank you to the sponsor. Was there very good, nice question, and just explained beautifully these concepts. So this is my submission, Guruji. Thank you so much, and thank you all the others.
I appreciate all the speakers, especially Ambassador Chabala, Dr. Ada, Chief, Dr. Remy, and Barbara, and those are from this community, and they are the supporters for us long time. And I want to give special thanks to Peter Rogina from the Peace Light, and our friend from South Africa, Valentina, and all other people are behind this scene to control the system, especially Dr. Shashikumar ji and Gabriel and Asami Yadidharmandra from Himalayas. And there's no extra special thanks to all of you because we are part of the family. For us,
It shows we have a lot to contribute towards the African.
Correct. Because when I look,
especially to education, youth development, getting into the holistic, physical, emotional, intellectual, social, spiritual development. Great job to do.
And Pete is already in the board, and I felt actually entire world abuse African community. We don't want that to continue, So we have to put extra effort to support them. That's necessary, So I think we Indians understand better because we are not white, we are not black, we are brownies. So
we have a great connection for long years.
Long years, correct.
Long years.
Right.
Our connection is not very,
Right. And see,
when UNDP goals to the sustainable development goals, we were together all the time.
Right.
Even when we bring all the non-violence, International Day of Non-Violence and the Yoga Day, African community supported very well. Without their support, nothing can happen at the UN. You know? There are over 50 countries, and that's unforgettable their service to support Indian movement. So,
Guruji, can I just a brief comment?
Yeah.
Because of course I've been involved, especially in government, bilaterals and multilateral. You know, it's strong. India's played a very critical role in, for instance, the political liberation of Africa.
Right.
You know, we worked as Zambia. You know, of course we are in the front lines, among the frontline states. But I was at one time as a director for economic and technical cooperation in Zambia. You know, there were strong bonds which were forged at a very high level. For instance, former President Kaunda, Indira Gandhi, and all at that level, official level. And so many things, you know, agreements which have been signed, cultural, et cetera, agreements, technical, which have been. What I'm saying, for instance, there is already the official points or links which we can use for us. For instance, in this case, the cultural agreements for yoga, world yoga, to promote, to make our collaboration. It's extremely, because we are one. We are one. We have, you know, the Indian community in Zambia, in Africa, it's everywhere. But deliberately, this yoga practicing, for instance, yoga can be used to, you know, welcome, if I may put welcome, engage with the local communities, and also examine, in fact, what can be done, reach out to some of the cultural groups, you know, the chiefs, working with the chiefs, and a lot of, what I'm saying is that through our yoga activities, we will be able to disseminate a strong experience of the Indian communities, you know.
Actually, one of the best method could be find out what the ethnic cultural activity which Africa has, include that as part of the yoga.
Exactly.
You make an inclusive yoga. That is what is to be done. So it becomes a good sharing. Africans have got great things to teach other world, across the world also.
I agree.
Even in my yoga teachers training courses, I used to have people from Africa. Yeah.
I retired from Prime Minister's office, from Indian government.
Oh, very good.
I was with Manmohan Singh.
Right. I worked in the Prime Minister's office for quite some time. I was in charge of the economic and finance thing, but my focus, Solomon, is on interest in people. We can do so much, especially, again, going back to involving the women, involving the children, the youth. The youths. As you know, for instance, Zambia, talking about the youth, do you know that 74% now of Zambia's population is youth? 35 years and below, 74%.
Great scope for activities.
Absolutely.
So, thank you everyone. Time to close today's meeting. I appreciate all of your support and blessings and sharing your knowledge, views, ideas, you know. So see you everyone tomorrow, same link. You don't have to wait for my email. Just click it and join tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're supposed to have Asian Yoga Festival. Some of our people from different countries from Asia, they are going to join, and I know some people are going to do yoga demonstration too. Thank you, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Thank you all. Bye for now.
Chant.